What's good, boos? It's Sheen Boo, and you already know. You know who it is. It's Sheen Boo. So today we're going to be trying out the new Fenty Beauty Bright Fix. I believe it's just basically a revamp of their concealer. And as usual, as I try to always do based on product availability, is try out every single shade that I feel like will match me and that will be relatable to dark skin, which is what I have. So I tried out shades 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Yes, like I said. So I have them here on my phone. I'll also pop it up on the screen. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at the color. So I did what we all do. I either put them in the cart and go in the store for online pickup, or I will put them in the cart so that I know what I want to get when I get to the store. So most of the time I like to get it in the store if they have it. And yeah, those are the shades that I came up with. Now, they look different online than in the cart than they do in store. So shade 10 was definitely way too bright. It was like I probably want to say a true cream with neutral. Shade 11 looks exactly like honey mustard, which I believe that's the shade that it's called. It was definitely too yellow. Shade 13 was orange, and I was going to use it for a color corrector. But then once I tried on the concealers or the Bright Fix, I'm like, these are so full coverage, you don't need a color corrector. Then there's shade 14, which was actually really close, and I kept shade 14. And then there's shade 12 as well, which is also really close. And I blended out shades 12 and 14, and I'll pop those up on the screen. So I'm like, out of all, how many shades is that? 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 5 out of all 5 shades. I felt as if 12 and 14 would be the best to actually try on my skin. So I'm sure you can see that from the swatches on the screen. So that's what we're going to be putting on our face today. There was no point in me trying all those on my face and blending them out when I knew they weren't going to work out for what I particularly like. So shade 12 is almond butter and shade 14 is toffee. And that's what we'll be trying on our actual skin. So I have on no makeup anywhere. These are my real eyebrows, no mascara, no nothing. I put moisturizer on earlier, but I'm going to put on a little bit of the Fenty moisturizer. Just a little bit over my whole face. So this is marketed as a under eye brightener. And as you can see, I don't really have dark circles. They're not really circular, but I guess the darkness under my eyes would be constituted as dark circles. So I do not sleep very well. That's just a regular thing for me that I'm working on. So I usually feel like I have a little bit of a dark circle underneath. If I sleep well, you can't see it. So let's try on the shade 12. Now, as you can see from the screenshot, shade 12 will definitely give me that concealer look. Like you guys know, if you've been watching me for any length of time, with my concealer, I like to go 2 shades lighter than my skin because not only do I want to conceal, I also want to brighten. This is almond butter in the shade 12 Eye Brightening Illuminator. So some people do want to brighten their under eye and some people want to conceal. I like to brighten and conceal. So I'm trying the shade 12 and 14. Now 12 is going to brighten and conceal. 14 is just going to conceal and maybe semi-brighten because it's the same color as my skin. So we're just going to squeeze some out and we're going to try it with our finger. And this is what the packaging looked like. I thought it was really cute how crystal clear this is so you can see how much is coming out. So I'm going to apply this side with my finger. Let's see how that works. I'm not going to put on any foundation first because some people do wear concealer alone. So just off the bat, it's definitely feeling nice and smooth and a little oily. But it does say illuminator. I typically apply my concealer with a beauty sponge. I use my Real Techniques one and I cut it in half because that's like the best blend for me. And right off the bat, I could see that the first layer is definitely blending very good. I feel like for it to be illuminating primer, it dries down really, illuminating brightener, it's drying down really fast. And right now my sponge is not damp at all. And it's drying it down really fast. So let me go ahead and dampen the sponge and add a second layer, and we're gonna see what it looks like then. So this layer looks to be dry, and it is a very thin layer. So let's go ahead and add a second layer. I went ahead and washed the sponge. So this time I'm gonna put it directly on the sponge and then put it under my eye. And we're gonna see if it is buildable. Okay. I don't know, I feel like with a damp sponge, it is soaking up some of the product, but maybe I didn't apply enough. So we're just gonna go ahead and put a little more. I'll tell you one thing though. Okay, yeah, it does layer well. I didn't put enough. The dark circle is no longer showing. The sponge is picking up some of the product. It is definitely damp. It's not wet because I squeezed it into the paper towel. So I don't know if applying this with a sponge will be the best. It works, but it's picking up some of the product. So we're gonna go with a third layer using a foundation brush. Just a little bit. Before we try the other shade, it claims that it's instantly hydrating, brightens, blurs, light as air, and it's sheer buildable coverage that lasts. Instantly hydrates, yes. Brightens and blurs, yes. Light as air, yes. Sheer, yes. Buildable coverage that lasts, I don't know. So let's move on to shade 14, which is Toffee. Yeah, this is like the perfect shade to just brighten. It actually, when you blend it out, doesn't look much different than my natural skin. So we're gonna zoom in some. See, it's pretty close to my natural undertone, which is great because I can just throw this on with the powder and probably my Fenty soft matte powder and still be legit if I wanted to go for like a natural look without beating my full face, and I still wanted to conceal those dark circles and look a little more awake. I didn't like the way it applied with the brush at all, so we're gonna start with our finger again on this side. The sponge is cool, it does pick it up a little bit, but I don't like it with the brush, at least not with that one. Okay, so you see how this one is definitely much more warm. But we're just gonna do it with our finger and see how it blends out. And I feel like this one you don't want to over blend because it is sheer. So once it starts to settle into that under eye, don't keep pressing directly under your eye. Just start blending outward and kind of let it sit and dry. So now that I'm done applying it with my finger, I'm gonna go ahead and blend the edges out with the sponge. I'm not gonna press directly under that eye too much because I don't want to crease. And as you can see, I did not set 12 with the powder. So it is not, it is creasing. It's set creasing just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is just take my finger and look up and kind of fix that. So that does help it. So now what I'm gonna do is show you it with powder. So for the left side, for the shade 12, I'm gonna set it with by Laura Mercier Translucent in Honey because I don't want it to change the color at all. So I'm gonna dip it into it, blow off the excess, and I am going to place that on there. Actually, don't use your sponge, use a powder puff. Powder puff is like magic, okay? When you use a powder puff, you'll probably never crease. So, good thing I didn't go all the way up under my eye with it. I'm gonna go higher with this. So you just wanna pat in that concealer. And then on the right side, I'm gonna take my Laura Mercier translucent powder in deep, because this side is darker and I don't wanna change the color of this. I could tell on the left, because I didn't set it right away with the powder, it does have a little bit of creasing, but on the right side it's almost like perfect because I did set it right after. And then sometimes what I'll do is take my damp sponge after I set the powder and I'll lightly just pat everything together for a smoother finish. On the left I have 12 and on the right I have 14. Now for my particular taste, I don't like it with just the setting powder in the concealer by itself, or the Bright Eye Fix. So I'm going to go put foundation all over my whole face, and then I'm going to come back and see how it layers with foundation. So our foundation is all the way blended, and I'm not going to talk you through. I'm just going to do the exact same thing to my face that I did when I didn't have on any foundation. I'm going to just go ahead and apply it with concealer and setting powder, and then I'm going to come back and tell you my final thoughts about the new Fenty Bright Fix. All right, you guys, so I haven't added any other makeup to my face, and I really don't need to because we're just focusing on the Bright Fix. It's really a personal preference if you're my skin tone and you want to use the shade 12 or you want to use the shade 14, because really it's just a little brighter, but both will work very great for your skin tone. If you're going to set the Bright Fix with powder, I do recommend setting it with a powder that will not change the color of the concealer, which is why I use the lighter powder for the lighter concealer and a darker powder for the darker concealer. So hopefully I've answered all your questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, would I recommend this? I would say yes, I would recommend it, but I wouldn't give it a 10. 9.5. Because I feel like after I set it with the powder, it wasn't as smooth as it was before I put the powder on. So 9.5 out of 10. And yes, I would recommend it. So if you'd like to try it, go ahead and try it out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Keep up with Sheen Boo all the time. Don't forget about Instagram and Twitter too, at Sheena Sheen Boo.